are going to be watching insane conspiracy theories that turned out true. I know a couple, and I'm gonna be keeping an eye on this list and maybe getting some new ideas. Let's check it out.
A secret government experiment turned animals into spies. A lie about food created a global crisis, and powerful men were caught performing strange rituals in the woods.
They did that at my high school. They like sacrificed somebody. It was actually insane. Do not grow up in Texas. It is a PvP zone.
Stories sound like nonsense. Many people didn't believe them. Then the truth came out. Today we're diving into insane conspiracy theories that were true all along. We'll begin with the strange cases and work our way to the most shocking. Our goal, guys, is 2.5 million subscribers by the end of 2026.
Let's go! Guys, please sub to the GOAT. He makes the greatest videos of all time. It's awesome and amazing. It's awesome to talk about. There's so much yap that can go on. Grab the popcorn, go give him a sub and maybe a hug and tell him have a nice day.
Crazy, so it would mean the world if you subscribe. I will do my very best to put out the best videos I can for you. I'm Visual Venture and you are awesome.
No, you are.
The animal spy conspiracy.
Okay.
During the
best animal to be a spy? Maybe like a fly? They're fast, they've got decks, they can fly around and get different shots from all the angles. Human? I don't know, that could be a liability.
The Cold War,
yeah, and fly rhymes with spy, so I mean, it's kind of gotta happen.
US and Soviet Union spied on each other. That's no secret, but there's one bizarre conspiracy theory from that period. People claimed the CIA tried to turn animals into spies. It sounded crazy, but declassified documents proved it actually happened.
Dude, him with like the Burger King mic setup is always funny to me. Like, what the hell? Last day on Xbox Live.
In the early 1960s, being a CIA spy meant risking your life. Anyone caught spying in the Soviet Union could be executed. The CIA wanted to spy without putting agents in danger, so they came up with a strange idea. Stop relying on human agents. That was where cats came in. Dude,
wouldn't the cat be like the worst animal to have as a spy? They don't listen to nobody. They're probably gonna run off with the information and never give it back.
CIA realized cats could go anywhere without drawing attention. That made them perfect spies. So the agency launched Project Acoustic Kitty. The goal was...
Acoustic Kitty sounds like some ASMR channel. Welcome back, everybody. It's me, Acoustic Kitty.
Simple. Turn a cat into a walking listening device. Surgeons would implant a microphone, a radio transmitter, and an antenna into the cat's body. The idea was that the cat would move near a target, the mic would capture the conversation, and the transmitter would send the audio to the CIA. On paper, it sounded smart. In real life, it was chaos. Implanting those devices into a living creature was tricky. It took months to figure out. One report said they made a monstrosity. At that point, it was time to train the cat. But a new problem came up. The cat was hard to control.
That's what I said. Dude, they need me. Not the cats, but like the government. Like nobody thought that this was gonna be the most independent animal of all time. He does not want a job. He wants his catnip and he wants some snacks and that's it.
During training, it kept wandering off and chasing birds. It also kept stopping to look for food. Even so, the agency decided the spy cat was ready. It was time for a real mission. In 1967,
give him a laser.
The CIA released the spy cat near the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C. Two men were sitting on a nearby park bench. Agents wanted the cat to get close enough to record the conversation. They released the cat. It stepped into the street. Then a taxi hit it. The mission was over.
No. Cash Cab, you were my goat. How could you do this, man?
Over before it even began. By then, the agency already spent about $20 million on the project. That's roughly $170 million today. But they decided to quietly shut it down.
Well, who knew Discord kittens were that expensive?
One memo said the project was not practical. However, the agency didn't give up on the idea of animal spies. Instead, they tried something even stranger. By the early 1970s, CIA engineers came up with a new plan. If real animals were too hard to control, they would build a machine that looked like one. That idea became the insectothopter.
This shit looks like the iDog.
It was a tiny drone built to look like a dragonfly. It had a tiny engine that powered the wings. A microphone was hidden in the head, and operators could control it remotely. By 1976, the CIA had a working prototype.
This is the first flight of the insect-sized unmanned aerial vehicle called Insectothopter. Flight tests were impressive.
Wow.
The plan was for it to fly close to a target and record conversations. Once again, it didn't work.
Can you imagine you're talking with your friend and you hear, can you speak up a little bit?
Well, in real life, the drone was extremely light. That meant even a small breeze could push it off course. Agents struggled to keep it steady long enough to record anything useful. Eventually, the project was abandoned.
Yeah!
The Acoustic Kitty and Insectothopter projects remained classified for decades.
I paid for this? I'd be driving over potholes every single day. Meanwhile, we're putting antennas in cats.
People talked about them, but no one could confirm they were real. Then in the early 2000s, the CIA declassified some documents. That was when the truth finally became public. In 2003, the CIA put an Insectothopter prototype on display in its museum. The company in our next chapter secretly did something to millions of their own customers and didn't tell anyone.
What?
The BatteryGate conspiracy.
Okay, BatteryGate, like that looks like BerryCrepe. And second of all, I told you guys this before, but I lick the batteries and look at me now. I'm fine.
For years, iPhone users noticed a frustrating pattern. Whenever Apple released a new iPhone, the older models seemed to get slower. Many users believed Apple was doing this on purpose to push them to buy the latest iPhone.
Dude, the phone I use, sorry to be an immersion-breaking Andy, for face tracking, is so cooked. It's plugged in every single day, and if I were to take it off the charger, it would probably die in 2 seconds.
People thought this theory was crazy, and if you believed it, you were just paranoid. Then in 2017, something happened, and suddenly you didn't seem so crazy after all. That year, Apple released a software update called iOS 10.2.1. After users installed it, complaints started pouring in. Users with older iPhones said their batteries were acting strangely. A phone might show a 30% battery, then
I gotta know, does everybody in chat have the percentage next to or on top of the battery? I always turn that on. I would rather know than just like guess in my head. And I think stock, it comes with just the bar. But to me, that's so inconvenient.
suddenly dropped to 1%. Seconds later, the phone would shut down. People complained all over social media. They were confused, frustrated, and demanded answers. But Apple didn't respond. So one man decided to look into it himself. John Poole was a software developer. He noticed that people were complaining about their iPhones. His wife was one of them.
My wife just offhand mentioned that her iPhone 6S felt slow, and the numbers that we got out of it were significantly lower than what I'd expect from a phone like that.
Poole knew enough about phones to analyze the situation.
Ooh.
It was sort of a eureka moment, and that's what prompted me to really take a deep dive into our database of performance data and see what was happening.
He ran performance tests on older iPhones and compared the results to newer ones.
I mean, if I were to run a performance test on an old iPhone, I'd probably play that game where you have to keep shooting the paper into the trash can. That shit was awesome.
He found was hard to ignore. Older iPhones running newer versions of iOS had lower performance scores, but it was only happening to phones with older batteries. After analyzing everything, he reached one unsettling conclusion.
Apple was greedy.
Apple was deliberately slowing down older iPhones. Poole published his findings on his blog on December 2017. Millions read it and they were furious. For the first time, the old joke about Apple slowing phones down didn't feel like a joke.
Can we just bring back the whimsy of this meme format? You know, the penguin, the animals, all of them. There's just something wholesome about this image to me.
Now Apple had to answer for it. Just 2 days after Poole's blog went viral, Apple released a statement.
Apple confirms it slows down the performance of older iPhones to reduce power demands.
The company admitted it was slowing down older phones, but it said,
"We're sorry. Sorry." We're sorry.
Said there was a good reason for it. As iPhones get older, so do their batteries. Older batteries can't handle power the way they used to. If an older battery is pushed too hard, the phone might shut down or crash. To prevent that from happening, Apple added software that reduced the processor speed on older.
Dude, the worst thing about the iPhone is when it gets really hot. Like, I live in the South, and I've lived in the South my whole life, and I hate whenever I have to run to the car and hold the phone up to the AC. I'm like, please don't die on me, please.
Models. But that explanation didn't calm customers down. The problem wasn't just the slowdown. The problem was that Apple kept it hidden. Soon, lawsuits began piling up.
So far, 2 lawsuits have been filed in Los Angeles and Illinois, claiming those suing never consented to allow Apple to slow their older iPhones.
Ooh, get me in on that. I'm American. I love me a class action.
Sued in the US, Canada, Israel, and several European countries. Attorneys said Apple acted deceptively by hiding the shutdown and slowdown issues. In 2020, Apple agreed to settle the lawsuits. The company reportedly paid about $500 million.
I could be eating Chipotle every day. Where was my check?
Every iPhone user included in the lawsuit received a little less than $100, but as part of the
I mean, $92. I could stretch that. Yeah, I could do someone with 92 bucks. Maybe I'll get a basketball hoop. Yeah.
Apple did not admit to breaking any laws or any other wrongdoing. Today, Apple's more transparent about battery performance. The company also added a new feature that shows battery health. Up next is the story of a product that millions of people...
Wait, can you see that now? I gotta know. Battery health iPhone. I'm gonna see what mine's at. How do I see? Settings, battery health. Okay, let's look at this. This is my normal phone, and then I'll check my other phone. Okay, that sounds like I'm a dealer. My tracking phone, that's just gotta be bad. Okay, I gotta know. Settings, battery health. Okay. Battery health. Okay. Max, it says normal, performing as expected. Maximum capacity is like 91%. Battery, this is gonna be bad. Health. Oh no, I don't even want to click it. Maximum capacity 70%. Your battery's health is significantly degraded. An Apple authorized service provider can replace the battery to restore to full performance. Oh! Yeah, this phone is cooked.
Bought without knowing it was a death trap. The Ford Pinto conspiracy.
What?
The Ford Pinto is remembered as one of the most dangerous cars ever.
I thought it looked cool. I don't know anything about it.
A small crash could make it burst into flames. Many people ended up in the emergency room. The conspiracy theory was that Ford themselves knew the cars were going to explode, but they hid that information and sold it anyway.
What?
That was a serious accusation. The truth was even worse. In the 1960s, the Ford Motor Company was in trouble. Other car companies...
I would love to watch Hot Ones more if they had Overwatch streamers. What? I'm sorry, I had to pause for that because I was just confused on where that came from. I would eat nachos more if they just didn't always have like a shit ton of sour cream on it.
Was even worse. In the 1960s, the Ford Motor Company was in trouble. Other car companies were selling smaller, cheaper vehicles, and Ford needed something that could compete. So the CEO told engineers to build a car that was cheap, small, and fuel efficient. Those targets were difficult, but not impossible.
Isn't that like probably the worst 3 things to go together? Can we pick a struggle?
Possible. The real problem was time. Designing a new car normally took 43 months. Ford engineers were given only 25. That deadline...
What? And now they have to speedrun making a car? Oh, hell no.
Forced them to rush the design process. The result was the Ford Pinto. Eventually, it was time for crash testing, which is standard for any new car. Engineers wanted to see what would happen if the Pinto...
Dude, I was watching crash test videos just because I was being a little curious about it. I was a little crash curious. Whoa! So, isn't it better if they do smoosh? Like, you want to see them smush up. because if they don't smush up, then it's more dangerous? Yeah. I've been learning. Also, Maria, thank you very much. Can we get a quick page to tap up? Maria, thank you. And Nephew said, fun fact, the Ford Pinto was actually safer than other cars at the time. It was just that accidents were more explosive. Okay, so like, buy the car, just don't get hit? Like the Ford Pinto is like a glass cannon build?
Pinto crashed. When the Pinto was hit from behind, the gas tank ruptured. Fuel spilled, sparks flew, and then boom, the Pinto burst into flames. Ford crash tested the car over 40 times. The same problem.
Dude, when I watched the crash test too, I'm like, this is so expensive. Like, that has gotta be expensive. After 20 times, he's like, another one. Man, the budget is getting really low.
Occurred. When the Pinto was rear-ended, the car caught fire. The problem came from the car's design. Engineers placed the gas tank right behind the rear bumper. Despite the obvious danger, Ford moved ahead with production.
You never want to have an explosive behind. That means you actually have to wash your hands when you're done going to the bathroom.
Thousands of Pintos were built and sold. It was an instant hit.
When I bought my Pinto, I figured it was a good value, but I didn't know how good until my dad started borrowing it. So I ended up buying my own.
And I bought one, and I bought one,
and I bought one.
Millions of Americans bought one. They had no idea they were getting into a death trap. Not long after the Pinto hit the road, the disasters began. Drivers reported the same terrifying pattern. Another car would hit them from behind. Then the Pinto would burst into flames. It happened again and again. Too often to be a coincidence. Some victims began to ask, did Ford already know this could happen? Ford said there was no problem. The Pinto met all safety standards. Even so, some victims...
I'm gonna be honest, I don't trust any standards in the US. I do not trust safety standards. I do not trust food standards. All of it. That means nothing to me.
Filed lawsuits. Those cases went to trial in the mid-1970s, and the Pinto case became a national story. As the trial got more attention, one reporter decided to dig deeper. He got access to Ford's internal company records. What he found was alarming. The document showed that Ford engineers already knew the car could explode, but that
and you're gonna trust American drivers with that, man? I drive in Florida every day. Why would you do this?
That wasn't the worst part. Once the accidents began, Ford had another chance to act. The company thought about recalling every Pinto and fixing the issue, but executives felt it would be too expensive. Recalling and fixing every Pinto would cost $137 million.
I have an idea. How about we make it right the first time? Oh, wait, I didn't mean to do an explosion.
They estimated that settling victims' lawsuits could cost about $50 million. So the company decided it was cheaper to let people get hurt. In September 1977, the reporter went public with his findings. His article was titled Pinto Madness. TV networks, newspapers picked up the story. Now the conspiracy theory no longer sounded crazy. Ford knew the car was dangerous and sold it anyway. In total, 117 families sued Ford over the Pinto. The company paid more than $100 million to settle the case. In June 1978, Ford finally recalled 1.5 million Ford Pintos. Engineers made the necessary...
Well, this lady's sign on the back of her car says, "Keep off my rear, I'm explosive." This is actually one way to patch the tailgate meta.
Ford finally recalled 1.5 million Ford Pintos. Engineers made the necessary changes to prevent explosions. No one knows exactly how many people passed away in Pinto fires. Some estimates put the number in the hundreds. Others say it was much lower. But whatever the true number was, it was far too many. Up next...
I heard the conspiracy theory that Barry is AI.
Who told you that? Sit in your chair and watch the video and laugh.
Next is the story of an industry that quietly rewrote the rules of nutrition, and millions of people pay the price. The Big Sugar Conspiracy.
What? Who wants some sugar?
For years, doctors said eating fatty foods caused heart disease, but some scientists believed the wrong food was getting blamed. To them, sugar was the real danger. As they dug deeper, they uncovered a dark conspiracy to bury the truth. It involved bribes, intimidation, and even fake research.
Dude, you have to think, like, the food companies want to sell the food, right? So what do they do to make you buy more? They make it addictive, and they do anything they can to make you keep buying Pop-Tarts.
In the late 1950s, thousands of Americans were passing away from heart attacks. Doctors and researchers were trying to figure out why. In 1965, a nutritionist suggested that too much sugar might be the reason.
He started to wonder late in the 1950s whether sugar might be a culprit in the increase in heart disease.
The sugar industry was alarmed by that theory. Americans were consuming more sugar than ever before. It was in soft drinks, candy, and desserts. If the public blamed sugar for heart disease, the industry could lose billions. To protect their business, they needed to shift the blame, and they knew exactly how to do it. There was a group called the Sugar Research Foundation. It was dedicated to the scientific study of sugar's role in food. On the surface, the group looked neutral and trustworthy, but behind the scenes, it was run by people who made money selling sugar. They wanted people to keep eating sugar even if it was harming their health. So in July 1965, the Sugar Research Foundation contacted a researcher at Harvard University. They asked him to write a study on the cause of heart disease, but there was a catch. The paper needed to downplay the dangers of sugar and shift the blame to fatty foods.
Holy lobbying! This happens every day, by the way, with everything.
Foundation paid the researcher tens of thousands of dollars. Back then, scientists didn't have to reveal who funded their work, so the public never knew about the deal. In 1967, the Harvard researcher published...
Don't say it. Don't say it.
His paper. It said that cutting fat out of your diet was the best way to avoid heart disease. And because the study came from Harvard, people trusted it. Almost no one knew that the sugar industry paid for this study. Sugar executives were thrilled. One of them even wrote to the researcher, "Let me assure you, this is quite what we had in mind."
This is like a Fallout plot.
Over time, the idea that fatty foods alone caused heart disease became widely accepted. A few years later, the US government released dietary guidelines. It told Americans to cut back on saturated fat, especially red meat. Many people followed that.
I don't care. That's one thing I'll never give up. I can give up the sugar, okay? I drink Coke Zero now. I don't even really like regular Coke anymore. I like Coke Zero better. I think Coke tastes weird. But I will never give up on the red meat! My God, let me eat my ribeye.
Advice without cutting sugar. Many Americans switched to low-fat products. Food companies advertised low-fat yogurt, snacks, and dessert.
Dude, this is kind of the same thing that happens today too, but with protein. Like, they be putting protein in anything. They're like, who wants protein toothpaste?
Would do it right.
Hard to believe it's got less fat.
But many of these low-fat foods had extra sugar for flavor, so people ended up consuming even more sugar than before. Over time, the health problems worsened. That confused a lot of doctors. Some scientists questioned the old research on fat and sugar, but there was still no proof that this...
It's just so hard to keep up with the healthy meta. Like, just, I guess, cook at home. It's like eggs are bad, sugar's bad, cholesterol bad, fat bad, saturated fat bad, everything bad, man!
Study was manipulated. It took nearly 50 years for the truth to come out. In 2009, a researcher was studying the history of nutrition science. Her name was Kristen Kearns. While going through Harvard records, she found letters between Harvard researchers and the Sugar Research Foundation.
The first folder that I pulled out opened up to a memo, the blue letterhead of the Sugar Association, and it had the word confidential.
Those letters proved that the sugar industry...
Ooh, she saw confidential and went...
funded the research and probably influenced the results. In September 2016, Kearns published what she found. It shocked the world.
New this morning, Bay Area researchers are accusing the sugar industry of some unsavory behavior.
Believe me, I've been reading this for the past couple of days, like, oh my God.
What did you think?
Dude, there was this kid that was in my college, and what he would eat for breakfast and for lunch and for dinner was, well, one, he would go down to the food hall and he would get one plate of food that he would eat out over 4 days while he was playing League of Legends. And whenever he wanted to have like a little bit more sustenance, he would just eat sugar cubes. I don't know why.
Shaped our notion
promotion of healthy diets for decades on this. Don't ever eat fat, sugar, no problem.
By then, the researchers who wrote the paper were no longer alive, but the Sugar Research Foundation still existed. It now went by a new name, the Sugar Association. When people confronted the group, it denied doing anything wrong. It admitted it funded the research, but insisted it didn't influence the results.
Oh, sure. Okay. We're just getting a new model. I see how it is. I'm not a fox girl anymore. I'm a kitty cat girl. My bad, but that wasn't me.
Even so, it was too late to undo the damage. For decades, people ate foods packed with sugar, and many paid the price with their health. That was a lie that lasted 50 years, all because the sugar industry wanted to protect their profits. This next chapter is about a secret military operation so unbelievable, the government denied it ever happened. The weather control conspiracy.
Oh, I forgot about this.
Have you ever heard anyone say that the government can control the weather? It sounds like the kind of thing only paranoid people would believe, but that idea didn't come from nowhere. In the 1960s, the United States was fighting in Vietnam. But
oh, maybe they do have like weather report and they just call him in and ask for the toads.
the war wasn't going well. One major problem was the Vietnamese army's supply network. Their soldiers had secret roads running through the jungle. They used these routes to move food, weapons, and troops. As long as supply routes stayed open, it was much harder for the US to win. The US wanted to shut them down, but there were too many hidden roads to find and block. Then the military noticed something. Whenever heavy rain fell, the roads turned into mud.
I'm so brain rotted. I can't even hear the words heavy and rain in succession without like hearing Sean! Sean!
Got stuck and people struggled to move through it. That made moving supplies much harder for Vietnamese forces. That gave the US an idea. If they could make it rain all the time, the enemy would have a much harder time moving supplies through the jungle. Controlling the weather sounded like science fiction, but the government had a reason to believe it was possible. Years earlier, a chemist named Vincent Schaefer ran some weather experiments. Schaefer flew over New York and dropped 3 pounds of dry ice into a
me walking to work? What the fuck?
cloud. Within minutes, the cloud began producing snow. He called it cloud seeding, and it proved that humans might be able to influence the weather. During the Vietnam War, the military decided to try it. It was called Operation...
Dude, this is the kind of stuff that scares me. Like, we had no idea that that was happening. Like, what is the government doing now? It's probably gonna be cloudy with a chance of meatballs soon, and we have no idea.
Popeye.
The goal of Operation Popeye was to extend the monsoon season and create an inordinate amount of rainfall by seeding clouds.
Air Force planes were loaded with canisters of silver iodide. The planes flew into storm clouds and released them. The silver iodide triggered more rainfall. The extra rain turned roads into mud. Some paths even flooded. Moving supplies became much harder for Vietnamese forces. The mission was a success. For 5 years, the US military kept doing it.
They flew over 2,600 missions from a period of 1966 to 1972.
This is scary.
And they kept the operation top secret. But secrets like that don't stay hidden forever. In March 1971, a reporter of the Washington Post exposed the operation. He revealed how the military was using the weather as a weapon of war. The public was shocked. Lawmakers were angry that they were never informed. The defense secretary was called before Congress to explain himself, but he denied everything. He called the...
I don't know about that. I don't know. Not me, no.
claims wild tales. That denial only made things worse because reporters kept digging. In July 1972, another reporter published a story in the New York Times. It was titled, "Rainmaking is Used as Weapon by US." This time, the evidence was much stronger. The reporter had spoken with people involved in the operation. Now the story was no longer just a rumor. The defense secretary and military officials were summoned to a secret Senate hearing. They were asked about the project again, and they finally admitted the truth.
What? They admitted it? I'm actually shocked. I thought that was going to be the hardest Among Us lobby of all time. I'm going to be honest with you.
Raised a disturbing question. If one country could use weather as a weapon, what would happen if other countries did the same? It could destabilize the climate, disrupt food supply, and create other serious problems. World leaders didn't want that to happen. So by 1977, world leaders signed an agreement banning the use of weather as a weapon. Today, over 70 countries have signed that treaty. As far far as we know, no country has weaponized the weather since. However, cloud seeding never stopped. It's still used for farming and weather-related needs.
Yeah, I mean, I know all about cloud seeding. I played Final Fantasy VII. I stole that from somebody in chat.
So the weather control conspiracy theory turned out to be true. The leader in our next chapter believed the government was his enemy, so he decided to destroy it from the inside. The Scientology conspiracy.
Oh, hell no!
The Church of Scientology has been accused of many things, including being a cult, but one claim stood out from the rest.
Why do I remember this also being related to South Park?
People said the church was doing illegal things to silence its enemies and manipulate the government. So were these conspiracy theories true? But to understand why millions of people believe this church is dangerous, we have to go back to where it all started. The Church of Scientology began in 1950.
Yes, that's what it was! They did the episode, and the guy who voice acted Chef had something to do with that too. See? I am gonna let you know now. Watching TV is good for your brain. Sometimes.
53. It was founded
Just don't watch 90 Day Fiancé. That's actually slop.
a science fiction writer named L. Ron Hubbard. It said Scientology was a religion that could help people unlock their full potential.
Read Scientology, The Fundamentals of Thought by L. Ron Hubbard. Your search is over, but the adventure's just begun.
That message attracted thousands of followers, but as Scientology grew, so did the controversy around it.
Is this still a thing? I don't know why in my head I always relate this as to like early 2000s.
Members accused the church of extortion and harassment. By the mid-1960s,
Tom Cruise is involved? What the hell?
1960s, the complaints were too many to ignore. The US government started investigating Scientology's internal practices, and what they found was troubling. Large amounts of church money were going straight to the founder, Hubbard. He was running it less like a religion and more like a business. So the government revoked Scientology's tax-exempt status. Other countries went even further.
The state of Victoria in Australia has passed a law making it a criminal offense for anyone to demand or receive payment for the pseudo-medical practice of Scientology.
Hubbard was furious. He believed
Dude, there was like a lot of cult stuff in Japan. I remember I was walking around and this lady came up to me with the clipboard and she started speaking Japanese and I was like, I don't speak Japanese. And then she said, how did you know what I said? She clocked my shit so quick.
The government was targeting him unfairly. He gave interviews defending Scientology.
Why do they just fight it and say there's something bad, but they never specify what's bad? They haven't specified. For instance, right now they say we're breaking up marriages. All right, that's a lie.
But instead of fighting back in court, Hubbard came up with a much darker plan. He would attack the government from within. In 1973, Hubbard launched Operation Snow White. The mission was simple. Scientology wanted to infiltrate government offices and erase every damaging file about the church. To do that, Hubbard created a network of spies. They made Scientology members apply for jobs in government agencies. They targeted places like the IRS and the Department of Justice.
If you guys are targeting the IRS, can you just like shut all that down for real? I've been doing my taxes the last couple days and I would appreciate it if we just got rid of that shit.
Once they got hired, the spies searched for files on Scientology. Then they stole those files or destroyed them. Sometimes they swapped real records with fake ones that made the church look harmless. The operation was led by Hubbard's wife, Mary Sue.
Okay, back in my day, Mary Sue meant you had super big boobies and you were like an anime girl.
Trained Scientologists to become spies. They learned how to forge IDs and manipulate people. For 5 years, the plan worked. Scientology infiltrated 136 government agencies in 30 countries. But the church was not just stealing files. They were also going after anyone who criticized them. Hubbard kept a list of the church's enemies. Paulette Cooper was at the top.
I thought that was my iPhone alarm. Did you hear that?
Criticized them. Hubbard kept a list of...
I flipped my phone. I was like, wait, what the hell? Are they infiltrating my phone now?
The church's enemies. Paulette Cooper was at the top of that list. In 1972, she published a book titled The Scandal of Scientology. It was one of the first books to openly criticize the church. Scientology church leaders hated her for it, so they decided to ruin her life.
They sued me 19 times all over the world, put me through 50 days of depositions, They sent a lot of horrible anonymous smear letters about me.
Then they decided to frame her for a crime.
They stole my stationery. They got my fingerprint on a piece of paper, and then they sent bomb threats to themselves.
Scientologists got a paper with...
Dude, I'm gonna say this story really fast because I've told it before, but there was this guy that was super crazy, and then he would talk about me, and he wrote a rap about me that was called Barry the Squirrel, but whatever, I don't really care about that. But there was this other lady that he actually did hate more than me, and what he did was he called the airport while she was at the airport and said that she had a BOMB and that she was going to kill everybody there. I don't know why I censored bomb, but then said kill.
Paulette's fingerprints. Then they used that paper...
Also, he's in jail for a really long time. And he's never allowed to use the internet again. Just letting you know, it had a good end.
Send device threats to their own church. After that, they reported the threats to the FBI themselves. To investigators, it looked like she was guilty. Paulette was arrested and charged. If convicted, she could spend years behind bars. The Scientologists were celebrating. However, their entire operation was about to fall apart. In May 1976, 2 Scientology spies broke into a courthouse in Washington, D.C. They were trying to steal more documents, but the plan failed. A security guard caught them using forged IDs. Federal agents traced those fake IDs back to Scientology. So in July 1977, FBI agents raided Scientology offices. They seized about 100,000 stolen government documents.
How did they get away with that for so long? I can just go into any office and take whatever I want and leave? What the hell?
They also uncovered files that exposed Operation Snow White. Those files showed that Scientology framed Paulette Cooper too.
They found something that said along the line of conspired to frame Miss Lovely, which was...
Okay, guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you're gonna commit a crime, and I'm not trying to endorse criminals, but can you guys stop writing it down? Just do the crime. It doesn't need to be told to everybody in your diary.
The code name that Hubbard gave to me.
11 high-ranking Scientology officials were convicted. Among them was Mary Sue, the wife of L. Ron Hubbard. She was sentenced to 5 years behind bars. But one key figure avoided charges. L. Ron Hubbard himself. Investigators believed he directed the operation, but they could never prove it in court. After the convictions, Hubbard disappeared from public life. He spent the rest of his life paranoid and in hiding. Scientology still exists today, and it is still powerful. Its members include celebrities, lawmakers, and wealthy CEOs. Who knows how much more powerful it could have become if its spies stayed inside the government.
Dude.
This next chapter is about a...
Yeah, and only 5 years? This is crazy!
secret club that most powerful people in the world don't want you to know about.
I think there's a club at Disney, and it's like Disney and a bunch of numbers, and you can only get in if you're super rich. I don't remember what that's called. Maybe a Disney adult knows what I'm talking about.
The secret...
No, it's not Club Penguin! No, is it Club 67? No shot. Club 33, yes, that's what it is.
Secret society conspiracy. You've probably heard the theory that a secret group of rich and powerful men control the world, that they meet in private to decide wars, pick presidents, and shape major events. Most people brushed off this conspiracy theory as nonsense, but it turns out there's some truth to it. There's a forest in Northern California where powerful men really do meet in secret. Those men are members of the Bohemian Club. The club was formed in 1872 in San Francisco. At first, it was just a few dozen men.
Why can't we get a club of kindness and love? And all they do is hug sad people. Like, can we get that?
Talking about art, but over time the club began to change. Businessmen, lawyers, and politicians joined. Within a few decades, the Bohemian Club was no longer mainly about creativity. It was about power. In the 1890s, the club built a private camp deep in the California redwoods.
Never start clout chasing. It never ends well.
They called it Bohemian Grove. Every summer, members traveled there for a 2-week retreat. As the years passed, the guest list became more impressive. Multiple US presidents attended, but as the Grove got more powerful, it also became more exclusive and secretive.
You don't ask to join, they ask you.
Oh, what the hell? This ain't the Skyrim thing?
The whole thing is about excluding certain people, and other people get to go to this fancy retreat.
No one was allowed to take photographs. Journalists were banned from entering. Members followed one strict rule. What happened at Bohemian Grove stayed at Bohemian Grove.
Isn't that Fight Club? I've never seen Fight Club, but I know I'm not supposed to talk about it.
Naturally, this made people suspicious. What were these powerful men doing in secret? For decades, no one on the outside really knew. Then one journalist managed to get in. In July 1989,
dude, as soon as you get a black bar over your eye or a red bar, you know you messed up.
a journalist named Philip Weiss got inside Bohemian Grove. He planned to sneak in, but when he got there, security was much lighter than he expected. So he pretended to be a guest and stayed for 7 days.
Dude, do you see the power of confidence? You could probably buy like a Burger King outfit on eBay, walk in, say it's your first day, and then you can just be behind the counter and eat all the burgers you want.
I saw celebrities, politicians, and business executives. He heard discussions about major issues. It all seemed impressive. But on the first night, things went from impressive to bizarre. After dark, men in dark robes walked in a slow procession. They carried a coffin. Then they placed it in...
What the hell? Oh, I don't care. If I'm a journalist, I am leaving. This shit is going way too far for me.
Front of the statue of an owl. The statue was 40 feet tall. Then they set the coffin on fire. The ceremony was called the cremation of care. Inside the coffin was a figure meant to represent the worries of everyday life. Burning it symbolized letting those worries go. When he got back to New York, Weiss wrote about what he saw. His article was published in Spy magazine and it caused a sensation. For the first time, the public got a glimpse inside Bohemian Grove. The idea that world leaders were performing rituals in the woods sounded unbelievable, but it was happening. Bohemian Grove still operates today. Every summer, members gather in the forest. Cameras are still banned, and journalists aren't allowed to enter. The same rule still applies.
Yeah, me and my friend, one time we just like pretended we were supposed to be at the bank, and then we said like, put the money in the bag. And then they did, dude. It was all about confidence. Just like, pretend they're supposed to put the money in the bag.
What happens at Bohemian Grove stays at Bohemian Grove. So was the conspiracy theory true? What we know for sure is that they really do meet at Bohemian Grove. What they discuss, however, remains a mystery. Are they deciding the...
Well, they're obviously not discussing anything nice, or they would meet at Golden Corral.
Fate of the world, or just spending time with friends? Governments, corporations, powerful organizations, they all made the same bet that the story reaching you would be the one they wanted you to hear. My friends, the most dangerous thing you can do is trust without question.
Ooh, true. Trust no one. But trust me, you should subscribe to his channel and use code Berry for 10% off your Gamer Subs order.
Of dangerous organizations, I have a video about cults still hiding in plain sight. Today, I talk about a cult leader who trapped her followers on an island, a 7-year-old who signed a billion...
Nah, if we had an island with like a slip and slide and like free lunch, would you show up?
Year contract and a cult leader whose followers mummified her body after she passed away. Click here to watch it. Love you guys. Peace.
Peace. Thank you so much for watching. I super appreciate it. If you're new here, please come by the Twitch stream to .t/BerryCrepe, or use code Berry for 10% off your Gamer Subs order, or just put a heart in the comment section down below. Goodbye.